All right, we back, y'all. Um, yeah, this is just me talking to my good friend Daniel Salas, infectious disease pharmacist. If you're just tuning in, all right, we're gonna jump him in the conversation real. Yeah, all right. Yeah. So I don't even know what happens with these live videos if they just go into the abyss or I put it like shared to my story. So I don't know if I could probably save them because I'd like to post these on YouTube or something, but yeah, I think it's just good information for even if it helps one person deal with some anxiety. Um uh and I think it's informative for me too, as far as to talk with you about it because you're at the forefront. So,
Yeah,
um,
and we have pretty different perspectives, I think. Like you and me have pretty different leanings. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
What do you mean leanings? What do you mean, bro?
So like some people are like very like, oh, this coronavirus thing is a hoax and I don't believe it and people are overreacting. And I think that's true to a certain degree, but at the same time I think there are, legitimate concerns and I think that people are getting pissed off about this like lockdown and this and that. It's like it's very important, especially coming from like my perspective as like a healthcare professional and working in hospitals, seeing
Mhm.
how overwhelmed we potentially could get, especially like other hospitals. And I think um, some people just kind of live in their bubble and they're like, oh, I'm young and I'm healthy and I don't need to worry about this. And I think it's important to like remind people that like this isn't a hoax. This isn't fake. We're not trying to scare people into something, into like ruining the stock market. Like obviously, like I was pretty pissed that my 401k is just like non-existent now. it went to it went to
Bro, you're telling me, bro. I'm like, yo, I've been working like it sucks when you're working a job that like you don't this I feel like I'm speaking from a lot of Americans' perspectives right now and maybe the world's, but sometimes you're doing a job that you don't really fully enjoy and you're like in the back of your head you're getting that reinforcement like you're like, hey, at least I'm providing for the future or security, or and then all of a sudden it's like it's gone. It's like then you're like, dang, I just worked for free for like a year and a half. Like I just got a half a year of savings left. It's
yeah.
tough, man. It's tough, but the thing that helped me cope with it, I was like, I've been working I've been working as a dancer for free forever. Not for free, but I train every day for free.
Yeah.
I so to me for my money to be gone, it's not like a real it's not it's not a real push for me. But
Yeah.
for some people who've been the worst is like so for example for me, most people if you're just say you got an S&P 500 fund, you've dropped like 30% of your savings is now gone. And now for me, 30% is the 2.5 years I've been working as a legal assistant. For some people, that's 30% of 20 years, 30 years. You know, some
Yeah.
people, some people about to retire and pull out, and they didn't, and it's gone.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, we're
Sad.
young. We're young in this investment game. We still got like 25 years and let that money ride, but
Yeah, we can afford to take a hit, but a lot of people can't, which sucks.
yeah.
Unfortunately.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, for people that don't have savings, they're also really hurting too, right? Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
tough situation because I mean, I don't know what the percentage is, but most people are living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, huge percentage of Americans. A lot of people are getting laid off right now because like the whole economy shut down. So
Yeah. So we're just kind of sitting waiting for this bill to pass from Congress to
yeah,
hope to get a check to pay the rents. But I think what I always come down to as well is like when I get all like negative or maybe angry at the situation, I think about the places I've been in the world where like this is a normality. Like to have a lockdown, like so just to think about if you're in Watts or South Central in our own city, like people don't go outside, like people are on lockdown in their own homes because of violence, because of, different situations. And then the crazy thing is imagine the people that are in prison in their own home and they have like an abusive parent or like, you know, that's terrible too. There's no way to escape it now. Um,
Yeah, especially children, kids who come from abusive families where their only escape was going to school. Now they
yeah.
don't get to go to school and they're just locked down 24/7 with like abusive parents. Yeah.
Yeah, or yeah, and maybe their only escape was their parent going to work. So, I mean, there's far more like I could talk about losing savings or like, the struggles that I have, but if you think about people in Vietnam or you think about people in anywhere, third world country, developing nation, they they never save money. It's not even a possibility to them. To not have a job is normal. There is no social climb. There is no socioeconomic climb at all in their country. So
Yeah, that's why I'm not tripping too much. Like I brought it up, but it's like, you know, water under the bridge. I lost a little bit of money, but who really cares? I still have a job and I'm still healthy, and I think that's probably the most important thing.
yeah, yeah, and I think for me too, it's about like friends and community too. Even though we can't see them, they're there,
Yeah.
um, and we don't get to interact with them for a while. But uh, I also look forward to the parties to come.
Yeah.
Like, yo, when this is over, when this is over, it's gonna be crazy. I'm so hyped. Imagine, like stock up. Like if you're buying stocks, no, I'm not even gonna give stocks or stock recommendations right now. But I'm just saying that the alcohol companies are getting hit pretty hard right now, and those things are gonna skyrocket when this thing hits. When
Corona? Corona
Corona,
beer?
yo, I own Constellation Brands, bro. Like I own some of that, so it's terrible. But also, what came out on Constellations, they were building like $1 billion facility in Mexico, and 70% of the local population like voted that they didn't want it there.
Hmm.
So that they took like I think like a 10% hit today just off that. So meanwhile the borders are closing and that type of stuff too, but the border is closing. What I read is it's not affecting like manufacturing and production.
Yeah.
Yeah, mandatory. But y'all, look, Corona beer has nothing to do with the coronavirus. Keep buying that shit. No, no, I'm playing. But yeah, I think, it's interesting to see what the government's doing. Um, I've been following it closely. Politicians I don't really have a political leaning necessarily. It's just they're all puppets to me. But and I think to see people downplay it, and then different situations when it comes to shutting down borders, and like when you shut down a border too soon, you can be called a racist. If you don't shut down the border, the virus is transmitted.
Yeah.
So it's a tough situation, and then at the same time, now there's whether you like Trump or not, there's a real, I think, a sentiment to me. What I see is that a lot of people aren't comforted by the way he speaks. They're not. he's not a president that can rally the country. And maybe that's me speaking from California. And I'm sure like most of the people that are tuning into this are following either you or me, have a certain feeling towards him. But, he's like a financial guy per se, but the way that he talks it's not convincing anybody.
Yeah. Well, I think initially his response was trying to take that approach of like, I don't want to freak people out. Like, oh, this is under control. We're going to respond to this appropriately. But I think the way things played out, everyone could see that, our response, we were dragging our feet. Our response was very inadequate. And now places like New York and, LA are paying for it. I just think from my perspective, I think it was a huge disaster that we didn't have testing kits. We were way too slow in getting testing kits. Like we had patients coming in and we just couldn't test them. And that's a disaster. We're just now getting potentially under control, but not even. Like if you look at the way hospitals responded in other countries, they got test kits in their hospitals. My hospital and pretty much every colleague that I know in hospitals in LA, we don't actually have the test kit in our hospital. We're sending specimens and they're getting sent out to a different lab, and that's why the turnaround time is so slow.
Wow. Yeah, that's because they've been talking about like, Walmart parking lots, drive-through testing, that type of stuff. But really, how fast is that coming into play?
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I know they're talking about it, but as far as the hospitals, like the front lines that really need it, we still don't have them physically within the walls of the hospital, which is yeah.
So what happens when somebody comes in and you give them a test or whatever, and it like, or you don't have the test, like what is the response when you don't have the test? I mean, do you just automatically quarantine everybody with flu-like symptoms?
Yeah. So basically everyone who comes in is a PUI, a person under investigation, basically someone who we're ruling out. We treat them as if they had COVID until we effectively rule it out, and then we can, put them back on normal measures. But
wow.
we collect the specimen, and we don't do the test inside the hospital. The specimen gets collected and sent out to a lab, a private lab outside of our hospital. They have to process it. They do the test, and then once they get the results, they send it back to us with the results.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And that takes a while. Yeah.
Yeah. So initially it was taken up to like 4 to 5 days. More recently, we got it to within like 72 hours, maybe even some in 48. So it's getting better, but still it's not perfect. The ideal situation would be have the lab in-house. That way we collect it, we bring it directly to our lab inside the hospital. Our own lab can run the test and then give us a result within an hour. That would be the ideal. Yeah.
The ideal. How far is that from happening?
So one company announced a test that is going to be a real-time bedside, or not bedside, but a real-time rapid diagnostic that can be done in under 45 minutes from the time it's collected and run. But we don't have those tools at our hospital. Only certain hospitals have it. But I would say maybe we're like a few months out from potentially having one of our own.
Wow. And you think most hospitals are in that same situation then?
Yeah, a lot of hospitals are using outside private labs. The main labs out here are LabCorp and Quest.
Yeah, Quest Diagnostics.
So we're using basically those labs, and they're running specimens for hospitals all over LA. So also they're getting backlogged, and that contributes to slow turnaround times also.
Yeah, I mean the Quest Diagnostics lab that I go to is not like a big spot, it's not.
Yeah, I mean there's Quests everywhere, but I think like we're sending Quests to a lab somewhere up here in the valley.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's Quests everywhere, but yeah, that's so. I mean, when somebody comes in with those symptoms and you have them under a person under investigation. does it require like a much more like how much more manpower does that require uh, for the
So,
hospital?
so it makes us a lot more cautious around that patient. So we have what is called precautions, standard precautions. So
Mm,
every patient interaction between like doctor and patient, nurse and patient, family, whatever, they operate under standard precautions. You escalate that one up to droplet precautions, which is like, you have to wear gloves, face mask, gear, and then there's airborne precautions. So I think right now what the recommendation is if you have like a patient who's under investigation, you put them on droplet precautions. But that's the
mm,
same exact standard of care that we use for patients who come in with potential flu, because flu is also transmitted by droplets. So we're not treating them any different per se, but I think people are being a lot more vigilant in terms of like how they interact with patients who are put on droplet precautions. And those precautions pretty much stay on board until um, if we're able to rule out the patient and rule out any other potential transmissible diseases, then we could take the precautions off. But as long as that test is pending, they're going to stay on droplet precautions.
dang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
So
it's also important in terms of like initiating treatment too. Because
it
right now we're
requires
initiating.
it
Uh,
requires a lot more materials too, is
yeah. Yeah.
what it
Like
sounds.
personal protective equipment, they have to wear a lot more PPE if they're on droplet or airborne precautions. But in terms of treatment, like you want to know as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Because there are investigational drugs by a company. There's a company, Gilead. They make a lot of the HIV drugs. They have a
Yeah.
drug, remdesivir, and that's what hospitals are using right now. As it's an investigational drug that potentially has therapeutic benefit against COVID-19.
Mm.
And so you can't get that drug until you have a confirmed diagnosis. And
Oh
so if
wow.
we're basically sitting on our hands and waiting for this test to come back, and it, 5 days it comes back, then the patient's already deteriorated. It's like, why even give it? They're already gone, or they might even be on their way to getting better, hopefully. But
Yeah.
yeah, the ideal situation is test the patient, rule them in or rule them out. If we rule them in, great. We know that they have COVID and we can start implementing the appropriate therapies and try to get these investigational drugs for them, and potentially give them a better outcome.
Yeah. And yeah, this reminded me one of my main questions was like, is there anything like preventative things that we can do nutritionally? I've heard, probiotics don't really do much, because it's a virus, right? So it has nothing to do with bacteria necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's still up in the air in terms because like your microbiome has so many like complex interactions with your overall health and immune system. So maybe indirectly, like having a good gut microbiome could enhance your immune system. But
Hmm.
in terms of like what's proven to help us like prevent us from getting this is obviously like the number one thing is washing your hands. Uh,
Yeah.
Washing your hands often. If you're out in public, don't touch your face, don't touch your eyes. um,
Yeah. Someone posted like I didn't realize like 95% of the time I'm touching my face,
yeah.
It's like whenever I think about not touching my face, I'm like, fuck, like, oh, I got an itch right there. Like, and
Yeah,
then
I mean, you gotta wash your hands as often as possible. Hand sanitizer. Clean your cell phone. Cell phones are super dirty, so I Lysol my cell phone pretty much like every day. Every time I go out, when I come back, I'll Lysol my phone. And then in terms of like maintaining your own immune system, like nutrition is key. Like you have to have good nutrition. I think there are some studies looking at patients who are like nutritionally deficient in like certain vitamins, may be more susceptible to these infections. So I take
mm,
a multivitamin pretty much daily and try to have like a balanced diet of like, well, I see your story all the time. You're constantly eating like spinach and kale and all this stuff. So I think you're fine in that department, but I would keep that up. Eating healthy, like well-rounded, diet of like greens, vegetables, fruit. I always try to make like a fruit smoothie. None of this is proven, but it's just like general overall health. And then obviously, like I think something that people underestimate is sleep.
Oh,
I always
sleep
like,
is huge.
yeah, anytime I get sick during like the flu season or like a cold, it always is preceded by either me like staying out too late, getting poor sleep,
Yep.
going out to bars, drinking. Like, I think sleep and nutrition are like two main things that could help like just boost your immune system and keep you strong during this time.
Yeah, sleep is huge, man. I'm the same way. If I get like I'll train like I train every day, but then if I train like on 2 days of like maybe 4 or 5 hours of sleep, I know for a fact that third day, if I go again and like stay out late or something, I'm gonna be sick for sure. And every time where I feel like, oh, maybe there a slight bit of sickness, I just like, okay, today I'm staying in. I'm trying to get my at least 8 hours, and then the next day I'm like usually way better, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the nutrition stuff, when it comes to like COVID-19, it attacks the respiratory system. So just having overall general health is good. But also, like, what about cardio? You know, what about having a good cardio system? I do see people running outside, but would it be something you think like running or doing cardio at your house? Would that be a good idea to be like prepped when you do get the virus?
Yeah, I
And
mean,
studies that it's
I
really
don't know. I don't think there's any studies either way to show that could be good or bad. So I really can't comment on that. I'm not sure. I mean, we
yeah.
know that the virus is transmitted by respiratory droplets. So
Hmm.
in theory, if you're out running around huffing and puffing and aerosolized droplets from like someone coughing or sneezing, they don't just, go out in the air and fall to the ground immediately. They kind of just stay up in the air, especially like small droplets from a sneeze.
Uh,
Um, I don't know the exact numbers of how long they stay aerosolized in the air, but if you're out running through the park and someone sneezes and you just run into like a cloud of someone's sneeze, that could potentially be dangerous. So, I mean, I don't know if like running right now is necessarily good, but I would say having a baseline reserve of like cardiovascular strength to say if you did come down with a sickness and respiratory wise you're very healthy and you could kind of deal with that extra exertion or demand that a virus would cause in terms of your respiratory symptoms, I guess it would be obviously better to be healthy and have a good cardiovascular system as opposed to someone who doesn't, especially like if you look at the risk factors that they're looking at right now, it is patients with asthma or COPD or underlying conditions like diabetes or obesity. So indirectly, yeah, running and being healthy would be a countermeasure to that. So
yeah.
I guess
So do
indirectly.
do burpees in your house, like all these Instagram challenges. It's the cure.
Yeah. I mean, not the challenges that are asking you to like take shots and drink beer and stuff, but physical
Yeah, what
fitness.
about that? What about that? You have alcohol and are you sterilizing your insides when you take shots?
I don't think that that's how it works, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they say sometimes, like when you're traveling to third world countries, like drinking, it might be the only thing that keeps you well. Like, well, my guess is it's probably because, well, actually, it doesn't work like that because I'm thinking of the Philippines. I got like really sick when I was out there, super sick, and it was from a drink I had on an island, an alcoholic drink, but I think it was called the Manny Pacquiao or something, and it had like a crazy amount of alcohol in it, and um, yeah, it was the ice cubes that got me sick.
Yeah, you got to be careful with the ice out there. That's why whenever we ordered drinks, we would just get like straight shots, no cocktails or like bottled beer. But you never
Yeah.
get water or ice out in like Southeast Asia. So,
Yeah, Southeast Asia. Yeah, I have no idea what I caught, but it was not good. Yeah, I think
Nick just commented sneeze clouds.
yeah. Yes, sneeze clouds. Like this whole virus is kind of like making me think about the world a little differently, which is kind of cool in a way where we're thinking about it in a biological sense, like what our surroundings are. And I think we're just we ignore that so much. We ignore nature. The one thing I noticed today when I was driving and I was going to the grocery store, I looked up at the sky. It just rained, but the sky looked different. Like the light looked different, the clouds looked different. Um, and it's not just like an after rain beautiful day, but it was just like something. There's just not that many cars. The pollution is down. Um, the sound is down. Uh, and you're seeing these kind of pollution reports across the world. I don't know if they're real or not, but they're saying like, oh, dolphins return to Venice, Italy.
Yeah, I saw that video.
Yeah, and then there's like, well, think about, well, I know Venice like contracted like all these cruise ships to be hopping in. So to think about how the environment is recovering from just this short little burst of non-activity is kind of beautiful.
Yeah, it's nice. I wish we could do like a timeout, seasonally, just like a 48-hour timeout where things just kind of pause for a second, allow
Yeah.
the environment to recover real quick.
Yeah, like let the earth recover just like a little bit after all the abuse we give it. It's crazy, but yeah. For all y'all just tuning in, make sure to watch the first couple of videos we dropped. This is my friend Daniel Salas, infectious disease pharmacist, dropping knowledge. So, yeah, man. But yeah, the beach, that's where we got to get going.
Let's do it.
Yeah, man. And Greens is just tuned in. Hey, Greens, we're throwing a party when this is all over. The quarantine. When the quarantine is over, we're throwing a big party. But yeah, man. There's a little bit of daylight left. I'm gonna get to my practice, but yeah, let's link up soon, man. If not virtually, maybe we can keep a freaking distance and go to the beach.
Yeah, let's do it. Hit me up.
All right, bro. Thanks for everything, man. Thanks for dropping the knowledge.
Yeah, man. Thanks for doing this. Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, brother. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.